This is 24 in 42. Welcome to 24 in 42. It is our pleasure to learn about an author's life, universe, and everything. And today we get to meet Armand Rosamilia. Did I say that right?
You did.
Excellent. Armand and I go back a little ways because this would not exist without this.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I'll get better pictures of these in the thing, but I met Armand when I went to SF Reader, and he gave me a shot to write when he was doing Freehold. And while nothing ever got seen outside of the circle of Freehold writers, I sort of earned my chops a little bit writing there. I think I've improved since those days, but through him, I found the Clash of Steel series, and he had put 3 out, and then Armand was moving on, and I was stepping in, and I'm like, when Flashing Swords Press wanted to do books, I'm like, let me grab up these Clash of Steels because these were awesome. Got the one out, and always intended to do more. You never know, might happen, but regardless, had a great relationship with Armand and learned a few things at the beginning of my piece of this publishing and heroic adventure fiction world. Now, Armand writes a whole lot more than that. He's totally into thrillers, crime, horror, heavy metal. Armand, what is it you do? Tell us about yourself.
I do all that and more. It's great that you're still in. I mean, we're going back. You and I are going back 20 years. And there's not a lot of us left. I mean, even if you go through those Clash of Steel books and stuff, a lot of those writers are no longer around.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. But I, back then I did a lot of science fiction and a lot of fantasy. And, my first love was always horror. And I started writing horror books. I started writing horror short stories. And I started getting published more and more. And that was kind of my thing for like about 10 years or so, where I just did horror books. And I always wanted to do crime thrillers. I always wanted to do stuff like that. I grew up on those books. And so I started doing it. In about 2016, I got a contract with Kindle Press for my first Dirty Deeds book. And it was a crime thriller series. And it ended last year with 12 books.
Nice.
For me, I love writing horror, but I love making money. I've been doing this will be my 13th year of being a full-time author and able to pay my bills with it.
Sweet.
And the thriller stuff pays about 10 times the amount of money that the horror stuff does. It's just a bigger audience, and there's just more money in it to basically look at it. I mean, this is a business.
Yeah.
It started out for all of us as a hobby, and this is fun, and I want to tell my stories, and I want my 3 friends to read this, and then you get that first review, and you're like, I don't know who this person is. Somebody just read this. I have no idea who this person is, and they gave me a good review. And you build there. You start hitting those levels and those bucket list things that you want to do. And so for me, I've been very blessed. Again, I'm able to sit here in my office and just write all day, and then I did retail management for 20 something years, and I'd never want to go back to that.
Yeah. I hear you on that, but it probably is fodder for a couple of ideas.
Oh yeah. I've killed a lot of those customers and people that I've worked with over the years in my books.
Shh, who's talking? All right, so the point of the program is to get to know Armand with these 24 questions. I sent him some in advance. We'll see if he whips them off or planned ahead here. But there'll be a couple he didn't know about. And we're starting a timer here just to see how well we do. So let us start. Start. Why is it not starting? All right. There we go. Number 1. What color do you write in?
What color do I write in? I'm going to say I write in black, in the darkest black ink you can find. Back in the day when I first started, I actually used to hand write, and then I realized I can't read my own writing, and it took me forever. So once I got my, I think it was like a Brother P Touch or whatever it was, little thing where you type it out and the pages print. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, that was like the greatest invention ever. I could actually see what I was actually writing and print it out, and other people could read it.
I like it. All right. When you're writing a character, how do you give your character depth, and do you treat a first, second, and third level character differently?
I try to give all characters something memorable. So I'm a total pantser. So I'll write notes after the fact, and I try to give each character like three different things that might or might not be in the story. So like I'll write a character, and I'll say, and the first thing will be in my mind physically, who does this look like? An actor, a singer, somebody.
Okay.
And so it makes it easier for me to do that. I try not to give too much description in the book because I want the reader to own that character as if it's them. And it could be anything. It could be the person has an overbite, or the person is whatever. The person doesn't know how to read, whatever. And I try to give them each characteristics. And even in the minor characters, the bartender or the waitress, I try to give something about them that it just doesn't. They walk up to the hostess stand and the hostess seats them. I mean, that's really what you want the scene to move. Mm-hmm. But maybe the main character notices something about this woman because of him, because of the way maybe he's a detective, or maybe he's a serial killer and he wants to kill her later and she's his type, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I try not to go too crazy deep with page after page of the hostess, and then she has nothing to do with the story at all. And I also try to play around too with describing her. Don't even give her a name. She's the hostess, but yet she's in the story. Maybe later on we run into her again, and then we kind of get a backstory or whatever. So the reader's thinking, oh, this is just hostess. This person is nothing. Let's move past. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, that was the killer or whatever.
Okay.
As you're going through.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you grow up a city or a country kid? And wherever it was, did you play your adventures outside with a group of friends or all by yourself?
I was born in Newark, New Jersey, which is a city. But my parents, when I was 4 years old, we moved to a little fishing village in New Jersey called Belford in Middletown Township. And we had like 20 something kids on the block. We lived on a dead end. We played stickball. We played kickball. We played football. The elementary school was like a mile up the road, so we would all walk up there and play. So I had that great growing up in the 70s and the 80s where all the moms knew each other, and at night we would play manhunt, running around through people's properties and stuff. And it was great. It was safe. Yeah. I had a very safe childhood. I have a younger brother who is 18 months younger than me. Okay. And it was the two of us, but like I said, we had 20 something kids on our block. So that was great. School totally sucked for me, but after school and the summers were great.
20 friends. That sounds like some great adventures altogether, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right. When you think of a story, what does your typical timeline look like from initial idea, rough draft, any research to you say, this is good to go. Let's get it out of house.
So here's my problem with the question. I write 5 or 6 things at once.
Oh.
So I don't start a story and finish a story, even if it's a short story. I'm working on 2 or 3 different projects every day. Okay. So I have a dry erase board, which currently has 8 different open projects on it. And it could be I got to write another chapter of this series or that series. It could be a horror short story. It could be whatever. And it's just whatever's up there. And I prioritize the ones if I have a deadline, like for a publisher.
Okay. But
otherwise, I'm just kind of writing. I'm just, okay, what am I feeling right now? I'll look at my board and I'll go, oh, I got to do another, I got another Severed Press book that is going to be due soon. So let me write another chapter on that. Or this anthology, I finished the story this morning and threw it to my beta readers because it's due in 3 days for an anthology.
Okay.
So, when I have a deadline like that, it makes it easy because then I got to work on this one thing. But For my own stuff, I'm way ahead. I have stuff that I'm 6 months to a year ahead on
Okay.
with release dates in my head. So it makes it easy, but then it also makes it hard to stay focused every day of writing this stuff.
On so many different, but I would imagine that also means you rarely suffer from any inability to write because you can just change um, whatever topics, genres, series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I'll write like this morning I wrote a chapter of a crime thriller, and then I immediately went and finished that short story, which is a horror short story. And now, once we're done with this interview, I'm co-writing a trilogy
Hmm.
with another author. So I'll actually start the third book in that trilogy now
Cool.
this afternoon with them. So there's always something, there's no writer's block because there's always
Yeah.
something. And even if I'm sitting here going, oh, I don't want to write or anything, I'm going to go read a book or I'm going to go do something, then I feel guilty. I'll read a couple of chapters of something and then I'll just come back and I'll go, I just got to work on something. And it usually hits. You don't want to sit here and write all day, but when you actually do it, then the ideas start going.
Good. And that takes some discipline. Took some time probably to get to that stage.
Oh yeah, it took a long time.
When you're writing, what assails your ears?
So I have to, especially if my wife is at work, I have to have music on, but it has to be stuff that I know. I
Okay.
don't want to listen to new bands. I don't want to listen to new music. I don't want to listen to songs I don't know because it's a background thing. So I might go, you know what? I'm going to listen to Iron Maiden today. And then I put Spotify on and I just listen to from start to finish every Iron Maiden song. And I've heard those songs a billion times. And so it's there. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily like a mood thing. I know some authors are like, I'm going to write a fight scene. So I got to put on black metal or something. I got to put on Manowar. I'm writing fantasy. I need something background. I'll just put like my like songs on Spotify and I'll just hit it and then I'll play songs and I'll be sitting here for doing promotion, doing writing, everything 3-4 hours have passed and I've listened to whatever the band is and people always laugh. They're like, what I'm a 80s guy, heavy metal. I like all that stuff, but I also listen to like I also listen like Bowling for Soup is like one of my favorite bands. And people are like, how is that even possible? Like, I just love those guys. So it's just a funny, random band I'll put on, or I'm like, I'm going to listen to Dissection or Cannibal Corpse or something. I'm going to put something completely nutty on. And it's just background noise for me because I don't like silence.
Okay.
I don't like it just being really, really quiet and like the cats are fighting in the background or something. Or the guys across the street mowing his lawn for the 100th time this week. So it's got to be like something that kind of, blankets all that other noise.
Yep. You got that guy in your neighborhood too, huh?
Yeah. My next door neighbor, it's like he's out there every day mowing his lawn.
Texas has blowers. They love blowing their yards all
Yeah,
day
yeah.
long. Blow. Hey, if you could live in a yellow submarine, would you?
No, I think it would be claustrophobic. I love the like Shark Week. That's my like. I can't write as much because I got 47 shark shows I got to watch. Even though I know everything about sharks, like I'll sit on the couch. My wife is like, she's like, "What are you watching this again?" I'm like, Shh, that's a goblin. That's a goblin shark. She's like, "What?" I'm like, that right there is a. She's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, because I watched this for 100 years. I love. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, so always grew up near the beach. I like going to the beach, but I don't like going in the water. I saw Jaws when I was like 8 years old, and that was the last time I was actually in the ocean. So I love the idea. I love other people filming things under. But yeah, I'm not stepping on a boat. I'm not definitely not stepping in a submarine, yellow or otherwise. I'm not a fan.
I love it. All right. Which of your many characters would you like to have as a best or close friend and why?
That would definitely be James Gaffney, who stars in the Dirty Deeds series. When I wrote the character, I didn't realize that I was basically writing myself into it. And my wife, who's my first reader, she's like, "This is you." like this is you if you actually did physical things and left the house, you know. And I'm like, I said, no, it's not. And she's like, 100% this is you. And I'm like, no, no. And I kind of wrote it for like, you know, it's one of those in my mind. Who's this character? It's Bruce Campbell is the character.
Okay.
You know, that's kind of who I wrote it. And then she's like, no, this is 100%. This is you.
Oh.
And everybody who's read it, who knows me, is like, oh, this is your humor, your fascination with Dunkin' Donuts and food. And, you know, you wear jean shorts and you're overweight and you're bald and on and on. They're like, this is your sense of humor. And this character is you. So we either hang out and love each other or we would hate each other because we were too alike.
Well, I'm going to say we probably never see you and James in the same room at the same time. So.
No, probably not.
Do you read any nonfiction, and what is it?
I read a ton of nonfiction. I probably read more nonfiction. I just finished Gator Country from Rebecca Renner, which is an amazing nonfiction book about the alligators in the Florida Everglades and poachers and stuff like that. And that was really good. I just read the Geezer Butler Basis for Black Sabbath autobiography, which is really good. I have, I have John Stamos. I have his biography sitting on my thing. I have, who the heck is it? The one of the Riot Girls from Seattle. I can't remember which one, but she just put out a biography that I picked up. So I love reading. Okay. I love reading nonfiction, even if it's people or bands that I don't necessarily like, because I learned something. And I also learned something in there that I can use in my fiction in the future as well.
Sure.
So I think that's important. You know, as a kid, I was never really big into history, and now I read every World War II book, you know, there is. Or, you know, my dad was in Vietnam. My dad fought in Vietnam, so I'll read that. I mean, my wife laughs. She's like, "You're either watching MLB Network, you're watching a Red Sox game, or you're watching the History Channel."
Right.
I'm like, I'm an old man, 54 years old. This is what you do at 54 years old. You know, like that. I don't if that commercial about being growing up and being your parents.
Yes. And
the funny one is when he says to the guy who reads books on tanks, and he's like, my dad. And I'm like, no, I read books on tanks.
Yep. This is a common theme around 50-year-old guys I'm interviewing here, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Titles. Do they come to you easy, and where do they come? At the beginning, while you're writing, after you finish the story?
You know, it all depends. I have, almost 200 releases and shorts, probably about 250 short stories over the years. Dang. And so it all comes, I'll hear a song lyric and I'll write it down. Well, most of the time I don't write anything down anymore. You know, used to when we started, you would write everything. Every idea was brilliant. Yeah. You're walking through Walmart and writing down character sketches and doing all this. And then like, this is awful. And so if the idea stays with me, you know, then it's so like the Dirty Deeds crime thriller series started out. It started out as the story was going to be killing is my business and business is good, which is Megadeth.
Yeah.
And the character killed children. He was a hitman who killed children. It was going to be very dark.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden Kindle Scout appeared and they said, yeah, we're going to sign you to a contract. We're going to give you an advance. We're going to do promotion for you, on and on. We want thrillers. We don't want horror. We want thrillers, but we want it to be more commercially accessible. And so I said, you know what? I could before I had written a word on that, I said, I can change this. The title is too, in your face. But I was like, and then we're in the car, we're driving, I'm explaining this. So I said, what if I create a character, which is James Gaffney, but he's hired to kill children of like senators and sports stars. You get a stripper pregnant and she's having a kid and you want that baby gone.
Okay.
But instead of killing the child, he actually takes the child and he moves him through a system, and that child is adopted and has a great life and never knows. And he gets paid by these people who think that he's killed the child.
Yeah.
And so she says, well, what would be the problem? I said, what if one of those kids from like 20 years ago reappears and he's a mobster's kid and he's supposed to have died 20 years ago?
Yeah.
So that was the idea. And we're in the car and we got satellite radio on, and Dirty Deeds comes on the radio, and I said, "There's my title.
Yeah,
That's it." So that it all, it all comes, you pull stuff from the ether, and it all just magically works. And then they loved it, and I ended up, again, 12 books in that series.
Very cool. And your description of when we start, everything you see, writing it down, street signs. Oh, that's a character name.
yeah. Every conversation is you're writing down every name we all had notebook after notebook of all this stuff, and then it's like, okay, at some point you get to the point you're like, all right, throw this in the garbage. Yeah. And if it stays with you, if I have an idea that it's still in my mind months later, and I need an idea, and I'm like, you know what, this has to be a good idea because it's still there.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Breakfast time. Waffles, French toast, pancakes, crepes, or bagels?
So bagel's my go-to.
All right.
But here's my thing. I'm a cinnamon raisin bagel fan.
Okay.
Everything like today for lunch, I had 2 cinnamon raisin bagels with tuna. What? That's my go-to.
What?
And yeah, tuna. It's delicious. It's the savory and the sweet. You got to try it. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's gross," until they try it. It's delicious. That's my go-to. But French toast, if we're going to IHOP or something, or we're going to...
You've heard it here first, folks.
I'm telling you, get in touch with me, eat it. A lot of people have tried it, and they're like, you know what? It's not bad. French toast is if we're out somewhere, though, I always go French toast.
Yeah, it's always wanting to try. Ooh, that perfect piece of French toast.
Yeah.
All right. You might have already admitted this one, but would you live in any of your worlds that you've created?
So it's all my crime thriller stuff is this shared world.
Okay.
Which you learned from writing fantasy all those years. Why create all these things? So I like having cameos of characters in other books, FBI agents, DEA agents, stuff like that. So I would live in this world. I just wouldn't do any of the things that these people do, and hopefully, like, drug cartels wouldn't be after me, or people wouldn't be trying to shoot me or anything like that.
Yeah, that'd be a risky world, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, here's one of my favorite questions. Who do you think writes the characters you enjoy reading most?
So I have a lot of really good authors that I've been reading lately. A lot of good crime thriller authors that I've been reading, and I love their stuff. And then I'll tell you the GOAT after that. Okay. Michael Wiley is a local Jacksonville author who writes some really great crime thriller stuff.
Okay.
S.A. Cosby is just phenomenal. Jordan Harper has some great characters. So I love a lot of these guys. That Andrew Mayne is another one I read all the time. But for me, it all starts and ends with Dean Koontz.
Okay.
I mean, that he is still, I read everything he puts out, and I love everything he put out, and I've been reading him since I was 12 years old.
Okay. I actually haven't read a Koontz book probably in a decade. I read a whole bunch for a while. There's too many books to read, brother.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I've been reading them as they've been coming out over the years, or else I would probably would have stopped at some point.
You get invited to guest appear at a writing workshop, but you are only allowed to give a 1-sentence piece of advice. What is that sentence?
Read everything you can, and not only in your genre.
Excellent. Fully agree. What's the best thing you ever spent money on for your writing career?
The first date with my wife, Shelley.
Cool.
Because we at that point I was full-time. I'd only been full-time for maybe 6 months or so. And I was doing very well. I was writing for a B movie company. I was doing stuff for their movies. And I paid my car off. I paid all my bills, all my credit cards, everything. And she and I started dating, and probably about our second or third date, she's like, "Well, how many words do you write?" And I said, "Oh, a lot." Well, how many? Because she's a commercial property manager, so numbers and spreadsheets is her life. And I'm creative. Well, how much money do you make? I don't know. I make a lot of money. I paid my bills. So she kind of was like, "You should figure out how much you write, how much you make. And I was like, I would look at Amazon. Oh, I made $300 this month on Amazon. That's how much I made. She's like, but don't you get royalties from companies? Don't you get, don't you sell short stories, on and on? So she made me a spreadsheet for all that, which I've been using for, 10 years now.
Okay.
And really that really helped the focus for me of the business part of this. So she's like my business manager when it comes. I go, hey, I want to write this. And she's like, well, how much do you think you're going to make on that? Okay, well then let's give me the numbers and show me that you're actually, you can actually make that kind of money. And that was, for me, that was an eye-opening thing, because as a creative person, I'm just going to write anything and everything I want and throw it up against the wall and just write the next thing. And I'm prolific and I can write 400 to 500,000 words a year. So what do I care?
Right.
And she's like, you're working against yourself by writing stuff that isn't selling. You're working against yourself by going, oh, I'm going to write all these short stories, and oh, these don't pay, or these pay $5, or these pay $10. Yeah. But these pay 10 cents a word, and a 5,000 word short story is going to pay all these other ones you've made in the last 5 years. You're going to make it up in one thing here.
Right.
So it really, that for me, that was the best money I ever spent, was taking her out on that first date.
That's a great answer. All right. Do you think that it makes writing more difficult or possibly a little bit easier if you feel emotion strongly?
I think it definitely does. I think the reader can read something and know if you're invested, if a writer is invested in that story or not, and especially in those characters. It all starts with character. Mm-hmm. So you could have a great plot and garbage characters. That story is garbage. You could have a great characters and a garbage plot, and that story still might be great because people are invested in those characters. My wife was a big reader of the Janet Ivanovic, Stephanie Plum series. And when I started talking to her, I said, I want to write something like that, something more mainstream, which is what Dirty Deeds became. And Amazon actually promotes it as Janet Ivanovich meets Carl Heisen, which is great. Yeah. So I said, well, tell me about her books. And I'm like, well, what happens in these? She's like, let me tell you about the character. And it's 20 something books of those. And she couldn't tell you what happened, what plot happened in each one, but she could tell you who the love interest was, who was this person and that person. And I realized that's more important for a reader to fall in love with the character, or to hate the bad guy, or and I think for me that's more. But you got to be invested in that. You got to be invested in those characters. You have to make. It's kind of like pro wrestling. You're a baby face or a heel. If you're a baby face, the crowd has to love you. They have to live and die in every stupid elbow drop, But as a heel, all you got to do is walk out there, and people are booing and hissing and throwing stuff at you, and you've won them over, Yep. I mean, back in the day, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, those wrestlers were getting death threats, and their cars were getting blown up and stuff. I mean, that's a bad guy. You know what I mean?
That is a legit connection. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Here we go. What were 3 of your favorite books as a child, pre-18?
My number 1 is Watership Down.
Okay.
Absolutely loved that book as a kid. Phantoms by Dean Koontz was the one that really I'd read a couple before Phantoms, but that was the one that really at 12 years old, 13 years old, really hit me, where I first said to my mother, Mom, I want to be a writer when I grow up.
Okay.
This is what I want to do. And of course, she always says, you should have said, I want to be a rich and famous writer, instead of you just want to be a writer. That probably would have been better. Those 2 books really were for me as a kid. And then probably I'm trying to think of which. Probably Red Nails by Robert E. Howard Conan. Okay. That was probably those were the books that those are the only books that I've ever read more than once.
Yep. Okay. That's what I wanted. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Kuntz started around 12, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Very challenging question. What worries you most? Lava, quicksand, spider webs, or chainsaws?
I run into more spider webs now. As a kid, quicksand was like I thought we were all going to die in quicksand. Like based on TV shows,
Yep.
based on watching Gilligan's Island, I thought at some point probably in my 20s, I'm going to fall in quicksand. And am I going to panic? Is there going to be a vine to climb out? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, but they're all they were all scary. But yeah, quicksand was like the one that you always worried about.
Yep. Lava, there was always the couch to jump on.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the floor was always lava.
All right, we're doing pretty good. We're at 26 minutes. When you're done writing, when you're calling it done for the day, are you exhausted, ready for a bath and a good drink, or are you ready to rumble and get out?
If I finish a story or I finish a book, then I am done. Even if I wrote it like in the morning, if I know, hey, I got to finish this, I try not to finish that book till the afternoon
Okay.
because I know mentally I'm done. Even though I got 7 other books in front of me, when I'm done, I'm that book is done. Now I need a break.
Okay.
I'll write again tomorrow. I need some bourbon. Some Netflix. I need to sit on the couch. I need to read. I need to take a nap. Is always nice. So it's always one of those, like I'll tell my wife, she's like, "What'd you do today?" I say, "Oh, I finished, I finished, Dirty Deeds 12," and she's like, "Oh, okay, awesome." But she knows that was it. She knows, like, I finished that book and then I'm done. Then I need a break. But otherwise, I'll write 5 or 6 different, and I'll have days where I'm writing 3 and 4,500 words on each project. I'm writing a page on each.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is the most difficult thing you think you have ever written?
Difficult. So there's a trilogy called Chelsea Avenue. It's a horror trilogy that Devil Dog Press put out, and I'd started the book 15 years before. And the idea is there's this evil that comes back every year or every 5 years or whatever. I don't even remember. The book was written so long ago, on the same date. And so you're moving characters ahead a year or in time and adding new characters. And I knew it was going to be a big cast of characters.
Okay.
And when I first started that book, I didn't have the skills to do it. This is like 2005, that I started this book. And I knew the idea, I knew the plot. It's based on an actual fire in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Okay.
Back in the 80s. And there was a club there called Murphy's Law, which we used to go to and see bands all the time, which is around the corner. So I knew those real establishments were going to be the setting, the opening part for this. But I couldn't write it. I stumbled on it 3 or 4 times until I started. Basically, I did some pitches for Devil Dog, and that was one of the pitches. And she was like, "I like this one," and I'm like, "Oh, all right, let me see if I can do this." And I actually struggled with the first one, and it went through a bunch of edits. And but by the time I was finished with it, it was probably one of my favorite books that I had written.
Cool.
Because I knew it had taken me so long. And then book 2 and 3, I just knocked those out because I knew the world and I knew the characters and everything.
Okay. All right. I like that question a lot. I learn a lot about you guys, all your writing challenges.
Yeah.
If you could write anybody else's character from any medium, would you, and who?
So there's a lot of characters that I absolutely love. I mean, you can go to Conan the Barbarian. I mean, I would love, and some of my friends are writing those characters. Some of them are writing Titan books now. Is coming out with this Conan. I'm so jealous that they get to play in that world, because that's, for me, that was everything as a kid. Conan the Barbarian. So that would probably be like the character I would absolutely love to write in that world.
Oh. All right. So this one's 10 first thoughts. I'm going to throw out a word, and I want your first reaction.
All right.
Dagger.
Knife.
Engine.
Running.
Fear.
Back to retail.
Lilac.
Lavender.
Salamander.
Snake.
Chariot.
Gladiator.
River.
Black River.
Channel.
Channel 9.
Smell.
Fear.
And darkness.
Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Why do I know that?
Bruce Springsteen.
Is that okay? There we go. Do you have a favorite quote, and will you share it?
I don't know if I have a favorite quote. I have a thing. I have a quirky thing that I say all the time, and that people call me out. And I actually named, I think, my first short story collection. Instead of saying pretend, like, hey, let's pretend that you're good looking, I say, let's make pretend. And I've been doing that since I'm a kid, and I still do. To this day, I still do that. And one of my editors, she caught it like every book for some reason I say that, and she's like, this is like a drinking game with you. What is make pretend? It's just pretend. You don't say make pretend. I'm like, I don't know why, but even as a kid, my mother would yell at me. She's like, it's not make pretend. It's pretend.
Right.
I don't even know where that came from.
So you try to stick it in still and see if she catches it?
Yeah, it definitely, but 99% of the time, I'm not even doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm literally writing make pretend.
So there's no motivational plaque hanging in your office there?
No. I got a lot of other crap over here, but nothing that's really motivational. No.
I'm waiting for somebody to answer this. Do you remember, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, those demotivation posters? Those are awesome.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Yeah.
All righty. Who is your favorite visual artist? And you can have more than one. I just want people that make art that moves you.
So, like, growing up, obviously the Frazetta covers are amazing. I'm a Marvel comic book guy.
Okay.
So, you got to love all those old stuff, all those old artists for Marvel Comics. I mean, to me, that's artwork. You know what I mean? That's artwork. We'll, me and my wife, on our travels, we'll go to museums. But we went to the comic book museum in Baltimore. We go to the Pez Museum. So we don't go to I don't want to go to the Met. I don't want to go to I don't want to go to see the Mona Lisa. I don't want to go to see Monet's. I don't want to go any. I want to go to the fun ones, the pop culture ones, because for me, this is artwork. Yep. These covers are artwork. I have the who is it, Earl
Norm?
Yep. I have the Conan covers up on my 6 of those up on my wall.
Yep.
I have the first Conan comic book cover up on my wall. I mean, that's artwork to me. That's art's something that has to move you. Art's something that has to resonate with you. And for me, growing up in the 70s and the 80s, man, Marvel comic books were everything. I don't even watch the movie. I can't watch the movies.
They're so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Earl's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
Cool things. The visual images that trigger memories, pull you into those worlds. Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah.
All right, our last question. What are you trying to share in your writing, if anything?
So honestly, I'm just trying to write a good story. I consider myself a pulp fiction writer. Yeah. I don't want to use big words. I don't want to talk down to the reader. I don't want to confuse the reader. I just want to write a story that I grew up on that is not available. And for me, it's more of just writing enjoyable characters, fun characters, and not having, too much, meaning behind, there's not a reason that the curtains are blue. The curtains are blue because that's the color I picked, that the curtains are blue.
That stole my line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it comes down to. Is the curtains are effing blue because I wrote that they're effing blue.
Right.
And so for me, that's really is there's some things after I've written them and after they've gone through edits where there might be something in there, but it's not like I sat down and said, I'm going to write this book and it's going to have overt things of, about racism and about climate change and about, nuclear wars. I just want to write a good story. And if you find that stuff in a story, same as if you find it in a song or a TV show or anything else, then that's on you. And then it's a sense of ownership for you.
Sure. Yep. Do you find, I'm curious, since you have so much published material and characters, do you find a common character, not creed, maybe? A common, okay, so what I'm getting at is I tend to write about loyalty. Whether I intend to or not, loyalty usually shows up in my stories. Do you find anything like that?
I think there's got to be something there. I try to write each character different with their own, unique weaknesses and whatnot. And I just try to write normal characters. I try to write normal people. I don't want to write. I love Jack Reacher, but I'm not going to write a Jack Reacher character. I'm not going to write this one-dimensional, and it's a great dimension, but it's a one-dimensional machine kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna write those characters. When I was doing my Dying Day zombie fiction, my main character Darlene is a chubby, plain looking girl who works at a makeup counter, and that's how we started. She's not underworld. She's not all these super high tech killing machine wearing black leather and strapped with 40 different guns and showing cleavage kind of thing. I want to see what normal people do in extraordinary situations.
Love it.
And for me, that's it. Now, if there's a thread in there, maybe a reader will find it or will figure that out, but it's not on purpose. It's never for me to sit down and say, these characters need to do this, because I read a lot of bad characters. I read a lot of evil people, but not one dimensional. Like, oh, he's the bad guy, and because he's the bad guy because he wants to take over the world. Well, that's really boring as a reader. That character. I also don't want to swing it the other way, which is a lot of people are doing, and making it like you feel sorry for the bad guy.
Right.
We had a bad childhood, or he did this, or he did. I don't want to get into all that either, but I also, he's still human. I always go with the premise that the guy, the bad guy, okay, the villain in the story doesn't consider himself a villain. He considers himself the hero.
Right.
And that's how you have to write that character. I read a lot of drug dealers and drug cartel members and stuff, and they just think they're supporting their family. They're helping their people. They're America is the evil. We're DA agents are down here trying to steal from us. It's not the other way around. So I think when I'm writing this stuff, I'm aware of that stuff, but not to the point where I'm going to really super uber focus on those things and try to throw stuff down your throat. Politics, religion, any of those things. It's the characters talking.
And the good old sitting around the campfire telling us a story.
Right, exactly right.
All right. Very cool. Well, we are just under 40 minutes, and we have accomplished the impossible. We have learned everything about the life, universe, and everything of Armand.
Now, the next time I'm on, though, I want to see if we can do this in like under 30 minutes. We're just going to bang, bang. I'll give you one-word answers.
Now you have free reign. I would like to hear something from your writing, something that's cold, something that's current, and something that's coming, as much as you're willing or able to reveal.
So something cold, I'm going to get literal here. I have a book that came out from Severed Press called Frozen in Ice. And it is my literal, don't put this part. It's literally my ripoff of the It's pretty much it's a alien that crash lands in Antarctica or wherever, and chaos ensues. It's a fun book. I've written my 10th book from Severed Press will be coming out probably with this month, and I have 2 more that I'm going to write for them. So I'll have 12 books with them, and I'm not sure I'm going to write more, even though they're like monster novellas. Again, the crime thriller stuff is doing more for me.
Sure. Okay.
So my current is that's out now is Down and Dirty, book 1, and it combines a character from Dirty Deeds and a character from my First Coast Thriller series. And so I put the 2 characters together, helping the FBI hunt serial killers.
Cool.
And so that's a fun one to do right now. And then the one that's coming out from Severed Press is called Hidden Cave, and it's a monster, obviously monster Severed Press with in Son Doong, the Vietnamese caves.
Oh, okay. Will that be out before the end of the year?
Yeah, that should actually probably be out within like the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Is there?
I'm just waiting for the edits on it.
Is there a cover for it already?
No, they're working on the cover and everything now for it, but that should be out soon.
All right. Cool, man. You always got things moving. Well, it was very interesting to learn that you work on multiple projects on the same day, because, I mean, one of the reasons I'm retiring from just editing is because I found I can't, when I'm all doing the editing and layout and formatting and all that, I can't write. So I'm going to do this and try and write.
Yeah, I can do the writing. I can't do I have a book. I got all the beta readers back, and I got to edit. I got to go through this, but that's like a day where I won't write at all that day.
Yeah,
and I'll just, because it's hard. It's hard to put on that. It's a different mindset of being an editor and going through and all that stuff. So I get it.
Right, and getting your lady there to help put your business hat on for a minute and keep you to task. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this was really cool, Armand. Thank you very much for joining me.
That was great to catch up. It's been a long time, man.
I wish you lots of fun and adventures with all these different lines you've got going. Thank you for allowing us to get to know your universe through 24 through 42. My thanks to Armand on Thanksgiving Day for joining 24 in 42. Much of what I grew into as a micro-publisher was instigated or at least influenced by Armand 20 years ago. It was a real pleasure getting to know his universe today, and quite exciting to hear of all his works in progress and pending releases. Please read more about Armand below, and definitely give his work some love with reviews and comments. Happy Thanksgiving, and until next time, this was 24 in 42.